Hey folks, this is BestInSlot. Welcome back to Jurassic News Weekly, our weekly news show covering all the big topics in the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park franchise, in paleontological news in general, and in wider paleo media in video games, in TV shows, and stuff like that. All your dinosaur news right here at one wholesome place. Lots of very exciting stories today, maybe even a bigger week than last week, so let's get started, kicking things off with our Jurassic World section. Doo-loo-loo-loo-loo. That's like the cutting music to the... Let's get started. The big news in the Jurassic World franchise comes to us thanks to Fangoria and images courtesy of Jurassic Outpost. I'll link both of these sources down below. And what we got was 4 images from Fangoria's newest magazine issue. And that was a focus on the animatronics of the upcoming Jurassic World Dominion. Now we saw a bunch of different dinosaurs across these sheets. We saw Dilophosaurus, we saw Stygimoloch wearing a little saddle of some form, maybe for children, maybe for goblins, who knows. We also saw the locust, very interestingly, that we saw in the trailer, and we saw some Pyroraptor as well. Pyroraptor, which proved a little controversial. It doesn't look fantastic here in animatronic form, but it is worth mentioning that a lot of these will be overlaid with CGI and probably look a lot better in the final iteration. We saw that with the Indoraptor as well back in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. However, the big exciting news from this article was not any of these, it was actually the presence of Microceratus, the very first confirmation and look at it we've had for Jurassic World Dominion. Now this is a dinosaur that's been rumoured for this franchise for a very, very long time. It appeared of course in the original novel, and we had concept art for it on the website for Jurassic World. It's a dinosaur that I think Trevorrow has tried to get in for a very long time now, and since this is the last hurrah for this iteration of the franchise, it seems this is now the time. So we got a look at this Microceratus. Love the colour scheme, very nice, bright and vibrant, interesting patterning. It's worth mentioning, I've seen some people comment on this, it's clearly not a finished model, a finished animatronic, although it looks more like a maquette than an animatronic per se. The beak has clearly not been added onto the model, so it looks like there's a second beaked creature kind of wearing the Microceratus as a skin, which is a little disconcerting, but it will look better with the final beak. And if you actually go back to the first image we ever saw, you can see some baby versions of the Microceratus sitting on a table at the back, full beak intact. In other Jurassic World news, although not quite as big, we got a new international poster for the film showing Blue and Baby Blue, i.e. Beta, in some alpine, tundra-y, snowy sort of forest environment. Not much to say about this really, just want to showcase the poster for those who haven't seen it. It's pretty, it's nice, it's, you know, it's got a kind of low-key vibe, which is always nice to see in movie posters. It's nice when, and you see this more in international posters, they don't tend to go quite as hard on the bombast and pa-chow. That's not it for Jurassic news though. BD Wong, i.e. Dr. Henry Wu, did an interview recently with Vulture where he kind of dove into his history with the Jurassic World franchise, the Jurassic Park franchise, and actually had some interesting stories about how he got started in the Jurassic Park franchise in general. Now, 2 main takeaways. The first is that it does seem he does not see Dr. Henry Wu as a villain, and if you watched Camp Cretaceous latest season, you would kind of pick up on that as well. It does seem that Dr. Henry Wu is definitely going to be repurposed a little bit in a more protagonist role in Jurassic World Dominion, because he was never really an evil man, he just got a little ahead of himself, to say the least. But the more heartbreaking aspect of this interview was actually calling back to the original Jurassic Park. Now, those who've read the original Jurassic Park novel will know that Dr. Henry Wu has a much, much larger role in that book. He actually dies at the end, unfortunately, but he's much more prominent throughout the entire book. And when BD Wong initially applied for Henry Wu and was given his lines, he had a much, much bigger role in the picture until it got reduced down to that single scene in the lab that we see in the original Jurassic Park. Now, when asked about why this happened, BD Wong's answer was pretty simple, and he thought it was essentially racism, and that an Asian American at that time could not be such a big part of a film, could not be such a big part of a blockbuster film at that point in Hollywood, which is a little sad, and it deprived us of one of the better actors in the entire franchise, and a phenomenally talented actor, and could have given a little bit more nuance to a character who has only started to be rounded out recently. I think he's very appreciative of Colin Trevorrow for kind of bringing the character back and giving him some closure that he just did not get in the original franchise. Speaking of Jurassic interviews, Laura Dern, i.e. Ellie Sattler, also did an interview this time with Ellen, as much as it might pain me to even mention the Ellen show or advertise it in any way whatsoever. I'm not sure she needs my advertising. Either way, she did an interview promoting Jurassic World Dominion and her own work and stuff like that. And they were talking about Jurassic World Dominion, and she made a comment about how everybody's coming back and every dinosaur is coming back. And this got people quite excited. I saw a few comments from people who took it in a slightly weird direction, however. We know for a fact, or at least we believe, not everybody is coming back. For example, Sarah Harding is nowhere to be seen. There's really no suggestion that Julianne Moore is returning to the franchise. Then people are very quick to say, okay, well that means not everyone's coming back, but then all the dinosaurs are coming back, and some people took this as confirmation that, say, Spinosaurus will make an appearance in Jurassic World Dominion. I would hold off on that kind of optimism. Personally, this is not confirmation by any stretch. It's quite a general term. There are a lot of returning characters, and there's a lot of returning dinosaurs. It does not mean every single dinosaur from franchise history is going to make an appearance in this film. We'll have to wait and see, but I would recommend holding your horses a little bit, just because we know not every character is returning, which does suggest not every dinosaur is necessarily returning as well. Now for our other segment, dinosaurs exist outside of the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park franchise. Woo! One day I'll have proper artwork for that. It's going to be beautiful. So last week we discussed Prehistoric Planet, and of course that really blew up over the last few days as we got both a teaser trailer and a full clip segment thingamajiggy for the upcoming docu-series landing in May, a 5-part documentary series narrated by Richard Attenborough and produced by Jon Favreau. It looks absolutely phenomenal. My video a couple of days ago on Saturday does break down both of those trailers and analyzes them, and has lots of lovely comments from people who were actually involved in the show if you want to go check all that out. It very much looks like the Dino docu-series we've been waiting for since Walking with Dinosaurs came out, so very, very hyped about that. Definitely keep sticking around the channel for more information on that as we get it. It has, of course, sparked some controversy. People saw the beautiful dinosaurs in Prehistoric Planet, and immediately comparisons with Jurassic World Dominion came up. Again, I find this to be quite a tired argument. I think both properties can very easily exist in the same world. I do think people take it too far in either direction. You can love both properties. I know I very much do love both properties, even if I wish Jurassic World Dominion and Jurassic World in general still pushed further into the accuracy. It has raised an interesting argument, one I very much dislike, where people think the point of Jurassic Park and the point of Jurassic World is inaccurate dinosaurs because of a few throwaway lines he dropped here and there during the franchise. To me, that's a little bit nonsensical. Jurassic Park was never about inaccuracy. There's images of Crash McCreary working from proper skeletals for the Dilophosaurus design and stuff like that. Sure, there's creative liberties taken, of course there are, but generally speaking, the point was accurate dinosaurs for the time with a little bit of movie magic thrown in there. And I think for me that's why people get a little frustrated with things like the Pyroraptor design, which is close to being a lot more accurate with some very basic changes. And what we've heard over the last week is that Trevorrow in particular has pushed very hard for feathered dinosaurs in Dominion, and it's the executives at Universal who are then demanding stupid changes essentially to accommodate what they think makes for more threatening looking dinosaurs. It's all a little ridiculous and very much indicative of the kind of nonsensical oversight that executives tend to have in things they probably don't understand that well. But that's just one man's opinion. Either way, you can love both properties. You can hate both properties. I don't care what you do. Live your life. In the world of dinosaur video games, we do have another one on the way. This is a game we've previewed right here on the channel. This is Dinosaur Fossil Hunter, coming 27th of April 2022. The demo has been around for a long time, and we've been waiting quite eagerly for this game to pop up on Steam in actual full release. I think it's been delayed a few times fairly recently. If you're into your paleontology and your video games though, it's actually a pretty cool experience. You'll go as a paleontologist, you'll dig up dinosaurs, you'll bring them back to your lab, you'll then have to very carefully, in a very tedious process, excavate and clean those bones, and then you can reassemble them into full completed skeletons and assemble dinosaur dioramas and essentially build your own museum full of dinosaur skeletons. It's a really cool concept. Very excited to see what they've done since I last played the demo, and you can check that out on Steam 27th of April later on this month. And our final news topic for today, we're hopping into the world of real-life paleontology and the study of the following paper. I'm going to have to read this one. I don't have a teleprompter, I'm sorry, and I can't remember this off the top of my head. The paper is called Osteohistology of the hyperelongate hemispinous processes of Amargasaurus kazawi, Dinosauria sauropoda. Implications for soft tissue reconstruction and functional significance by Serda et al. 2022. So this is a brand new paper on the Amargasaurus. That's what it focused on, although you'd imagine a lot of this works for other similar dinosaurs like, say, the Bajadasaurus, which I probably mispronounced as well. First of all, I want to give some love to Kerry Woodruff, it's a difficult name to say, i.e. Double Beam on Twitter. They did a review of the paper. They were one of the people actually reviewing the paper before release, and they gave us a very helpful breakdown on their Twitter, so go give them some love and support as well. And basically I've taken what they've said and I've written my own little thing. So this is why the paper is so interesting. It was a bone analysis done on the Amargasaurus spines by Serda et al. In the listed paper. And much like that recent Spinosaurid paper, which you'll remember compared bone density of Spinosaurus with real world, Spinosaurus was real, but existing living modern animals, they did the same by comparing the microstructure of the spines down the back of the Amargasaurus with existing horned animals today. Now, through that comparison, there was really no indication that Amargasaurus had keratinous sheaths, which is, I think, the current understanding. I think that's where we were leaning at the moment, or indeed musculature along the back, either kind of like a bison hump down the back. There's no indication for either of those present. Instead, through histological study, and histology is basically the study of tissues, it seems that Amargasaurus had a sail, a cervical sail going down the back. This is the back, in case you weren't sure, which is funny because that's actually how we used to produce Amargasaurus decades ago, and then this keratinous sheath in particular, I think, became the popular rendition of the Amargasaurus, but now we've gone back in time again, and the Amargasaurus once again has a cervical sail. And personally, I find this really exciting as well, because I don't see too many histological studies when it comes to dinosaurs, although I'm sure there's loads out there. This is me fairly recently getting into this more and more, but my own dissertation back at university was on histological studies. I did one on flatworms, however, not dinosaurs. It wasn't quite as exciting, unfortunately, but it's always exciting for me to see histology being brought to the fore in the paleontology world as well. That's something that interests me personally. Don't know how that's relevant to the news, but yeah. The other funny thing about this, of course, is that Amargasaurus was introduced in Jurassic World Evolution 2 when the game came out late last year, and people were very impressed with Frontier's Amargasaurus because it didn't have a cervical spine. It didn't have a sail, I should say. It did have a spine. It didn't have a sail, and people were like, well done, Frontier. You've used the up-to-date information. We're very impressed. That is a modern reconstruction of Amargasaurus. And then here we are, 6 months later, and it's outdated. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Anyways, that is it from me and from Jurassic News Weekly. Thank you so much for joining me. If credit to everyone who contributed to this week's episode via their fantastic research, or their video games, or their docuseries, or whatever. Shout out to everyone. And shout out to my wonderful team working with me here. Sans Jimmy, screw you, Jimmy. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please do throw me a like down below. Throw me a subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next Monday with the next week's worth of news. Let's hope for some juicy bits. Not a sentence I ever want to say again, really. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Cheers, much love, as always. Bye-bye.
Houston, if you're ready, we'll maneuver. Reaching out.